guys. So after my April Fool's video on the channel, which I'm sure pretty much all of you watching this have already seen that. If you haven't seen it, there will be a link up in the corner of the video here somewhere for you to check it out. But I memed you guys pretty hard, and I feel like a lot of you took that personally. I got a lot of comments calling me very colorful things, some of them inappropriate. But I guess that was to be expected. I obviously didn't take any of them personally. I just thought it was all good fun. But some of you actually got pretty pissed off about that. And considering it was on April Fool's, I guess I should say you probably should have seen that coming. But for those of you who understood and thought it was just funny, thanks for being understanding and being able to take a joke, I guess. But anyways, yeah, so Saab isn't coming back, guys. As much as I like to say it, I feel like that was a video that I wanted to do last year on April Fool's, but I didn't know if it would be too far, and clearly for a lot of you it was too far. So don't worry, I won't be pulling a meme like that again. So one more thing before we get into this video. I do a post on my Instagram every Saturday called Saab Saturdays. Now I've been doing that for about the last 2 months, and I have 5 cars every week that I feature, and I'm starting to run out of cars. I've got about 6 or 7 names left, I think, which means that if you have sent me in your car and you still haven't seen it, it means that it's probably coming out this week or next week. So if you guys have your Saabs that you'd like to have shared on my Instagram, go ahead and shoot me a DM at auto.autopsy, and I'll feature your car in the Saab Saturday post. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this video finally. So today I want to talk about why Saabs are so cheap. Now this video in certain ways will be similar to when I discussed why Saabs are such a good bang for your buck car. It's another video I did a few months ago. You can check that one out, and it'll also be up here somewhere in the corner. But that was more talking about the car itself, and this is more talking about why they're cheap. Not what they are, but why, if that makes sense. So I have a few bullet points here that I just want to go through and talk about why they're so cheap. So the first major reason, and all these other reasons kind of just stem from this first one in one way or another, is that they are not in production anymore. Now, of course, Saab shut down back in late 2011, and they have not been back since, and they will not be back as it's going right now. Obviously, you have Nevs. I'm not going to get into that, but they're not in production anymore. So obviously, when a car company isn't in production, they don't have that dealership support. They don't have that huge part supply, even though, of course, there are still parts readily available for pretty much any Saab. We'll get into that later in this video. You don't have those same resources. You don't have all the same people that can work on the car, everything, etc. Pretty much everything that I'm going to continue to talk about. You don't have that when a company goes out of business. You kind of get screwed in a way as an owner. So, of course, with all of the side effects of the company going out of business, that really hurts the value of the car because people don't want to buy something that they might not be able to get parts for or all of that other stuff. So, of course, it's going to hurt the value. Now, number 2 is that parts can be hard to find, or expensive. A lot of people like to think that, and like I just said, it's not very true. There's plenty of great sites out there where you can get any part you need for a modern Saab, with the exception of a few parts here and there, but they're parts that shouldn't really need to be replaced. So I'll just name off a few sites that I use to buy parts, because I think that I get that question a lot. Where do you buy Saab parts? The first one is esaabparts.com. The second is eeuroparts.com, and then there's also genuinesaab.com. Those are kind of the big 3 that I go to. There's also other ones out there, of course, but that's just what I use, especially here in America. Those are probably the 3 best sites that you could use. So anyways, parts are not really that expensive, and I went over that in the Misconceptions video that I did, another Saab related video that in a way kind of ties into this one. Another link will be somewhere up in the description. I'm just plugging everything today, guys. But they really aren't that hard to find or expensive, but I can totally understand why someone who's not knowledgeable on Saabs would think that they would be a pain in the ass to get parts for, and why they would be extremely expensive to maintain. So of course that also hurts the value and makes them much cheaper, which is great for people like us who love the cars. My next point, of course, is that many people don't know much about Saabs, whether that be the performance of them, why they're like what they are they a luxury car, are they an economy car, stuff like that. A lot of people see Saab and they think, what's that? Like, I don't know what that is. And you say, oh, it's kind of like, it's a luxury sports sedan, it's kind of like a BMW or Mercedes. Like, oh, why don't you just have a BMW or a Mercedes? So a lot of people just don't know anything about them and don't really see why you would buy a Saab over something like a BMW or Mercedes. So I guess the demand for them just isn't there, and of course that's going to lower the price. So I was reading an article, or it was actually a forum, on why Saabs are so cheap, and this was based out of Europe. And a lot of people were bringing up the point that they're just technically rebadged Vauxhalls or stuff like that. And I think that some people that do have a knowledge on Saabs and what was going on between them and GM think that, oh, it's just a Vauxhall whatever with a Saab badge on it. And of course that's very true. Saab did a lot of R&D and a lot of their own work to these cars. And granted, yes, they are on the same chassis, but they do not share very many parts at all. I mean, they are very much still their own cars. Now, of course, comparing a Saab to a Vauxhall and saying it's similar, I personally don't give a shit about that, considering that I live in America. But for those of you that live in Europe or somewhere where there are Vauxhalls, that might be a point for concern, and that might be a reason why they are cheaper, because, it's just another rebadged car, or rebadged. And the couple people that said that on the forum got called out pretty quickly. But I do think that's a misconception that exists that leads to the lessened value of these cars. Next up is that people think these cars are money pits. They think they're unreliable. They think they're expensive, like I said. That they just don't think that they're a good investment. Now, of course, Saabs can be great investments, and not every Saab is going to run for 1,000,000 miles, and I'm not saying that. Of course, they will have their problems here and there, especially if they aren't well maintained, but they are certainly not money pits, and I will vouch for that every day. I do not believe that these cars are money pits. I'm sure 99% of you out there believe or are with me on that too. But I don't think they're money pits. I think they are very reliable cars. They are not much more expensive to maintain, especially if you do your own work. But because people, again, because it's not a company that exists anymore, they think, oh, they probably went out of business because they were unreliable, or they weren't as good, they were inferior to their competitors, which in a way I think the general public thought that, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad car. You know what I mean? So again, that just drives down the price, and that helps out people like us who love the cars. So I have mentioned companies such as BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and Volvo, basically all of Saab's competitors that are still in business in this video. And I think that another reason why these cars are so cheap is, again, the demand for them isn't there. But I think that's another reason why that is because people would much rather have something that's got the brand name, such as a BMW or a Mercedes, something that is going to cost a bit more. But you say, oh yeah, I drive a Mercedes, look at me. I drive a BMW, not I drive a Saab, who gives a shit about that? Because people, pretty much everyone out there knows that if you drive a BMW or a Mercedes, you're doing pretty well. But just because a Saab is just as luxurious or just as quick, and you know what I mean, it's on an equal or level playing field with the BMW or Mercedes, people don't know that a Saab is, the name does not have that same respect that comes with it that a BMW or Mercedes does. And, this is another point that I just thought of right now. Another reason why some of the Saabs out there, at least that I see selling, are so cheap is not because it's everything that I've said, but another completely other reason is just because they're in terrible condition. I mean, I see so many Saabs for sale that are just neglected, abused. People are trying to sell them for parts cars, or they're just trying to get rid of them. They're selling them really cheap. They've got beat up body panels, headlights are super fogged, high mileage, you know what I mean? Like, they just haven't been taken care of, which I just hate to see. But I think that reason could also attribute to the lower asking price, because frankly a lot of them just could not be in as good of a condition. So I think that's going to wrap up this video, guys. There are just a few reasons as to why Saabs are so cheap, and of course why they are such a good buy. Now, if you would like to see more reasons as to why they're the best bang for your buck car, or other things relating to me praising Saab, just check out pretty much every other Saab video on my channel, because I love Saab. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up this video, guys. I hope you can forgive me, those of you that got butthurt over the April Fool's Saab joke. But yeah, they're not coming back, guys. I hate to say it. They're not coming back. But that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you all enjoyed and have a great day. I'll see you next time.